And we are live. Hi, everybody. Kelly Byrnes here with Mary Vanderweil. Mary, I'm so excited to have you with me today and to introduce you to everybody that I know and share your brilliance and boldness with everyone.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm very excited to be here with you. We're going to
Um,
have a great hour.
we'll have one of our conversations that's recorded and shown for people, so who knows where it'll take us, but I do want to do an introduction. So I want to ask everybody, how does the world recognize you? Are you recognized for who you are and what you are doing? Because that's your brand's job. So is your brand doing doing its job? That's what Van helps people with. That's what she asks on her website, and she helps people and companies get to the point to get those answers. And she helps leaders stay relevant, and those brands stay relevant by getting the answers to those. And she's been doing this for more than 30 years. She is a well-known expert in branding and marketing from her award-winning branding agency with offices in New York and Sydney. And she helped launch several different things. And when she launched this big thing in Australia, Time magazine claimed her the brand psychologist. And I just love that. And having worked with you a few times for several months, it just fits so perfectly. Although I didn't feel like therapy so much as I felt like it was fun. But some of Van's agency clients have included organizations like Nestle, Viacom, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Macau International Airport in China, Comcast Cable Communications, Condé Nast Publications, the Sydney Opera House. Okay, I'm almost to the end of the ones I'm going to share, but Sony, American Airlines, Zurich Group, there's so many more. Okay, and then also, I have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are going to be listening. And when we launch companies, our dream is that the big company will come and offer to buy our business. And that happened to you, and you turned them down.
I know my father never got over it, but I did sell it.
But that was a few years after that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, just amazing. So that's the part of the bold and the guts and all of that. Just amazing. So now Van has another agency, and she consults, she speaks, she coaches. But 5 years ago, she launched Blackline Crazy, which is a fashion and lifestyle brand. And I forgot I was going to grab my bag to show on camera. Maybe I'll get that in a minute. It's a limited collection of wearable art and homewares. Each piece is based on, yay, there you go. It's based on her own art that she has drawn. Look at that. It's fantastic.
Yes, sorry.
Love it. And based on your bold abstract paintings, your first public art installation titled What Were They Thinking was unveiled in September of 2019 at the UBS Bank headquarters in New York and still on view. Amazing.
Hard to believe, yes.
It is. Guest lecturer for UCLA and other schools in the US, Australia, Ireland, published, featured in all the impressive magazines, Inc., Entrepreneur, Reuters, Investors Business Daily, so many more. On and on and on. We could go on. We could talk the whole hour about Van's background. And the purpose today of the interview is to help inspire people to put themselves out there more in your branding so that you can genuinely connect with others. So with all this expertise, global experience and knowledge, and then your own background and how you grew up, all of that, I just love that your purpose really is to help people connect. And it seems so simple, but it's the way you do it is just phenomenal. So let's start with your childhood. So how would you say your childhood contributes to your uncanny ability to connect all of those psychology, the creativity, the innovation, the brands, the business? Can you think back to your childhood and that at all?
Well, we moved a lot. My father was a Dutch sea captain, and we moved. I was born in Venezuela. Then we moved to Canada. My mother was Canadian. Then we moved to Holland, and then we moved to Australia. But My mother died when I was 13. So the only way I seemed to manage to navigate the landscape, so to speak, was to sort of sniff the sniff the landscape, so to speak, because I
Hmm.
just felt like I had to be curious and alert and see what the clues were, to help give myself some sense of identity and meaning. So that's, I mean, other people do different things, right? But that's what I tended to do. So I had this uncanny ability to spot the invisible clues. So that's actually, it's sort of no wonder that I ended up in branding because, we teach our lesson often, don't we? So
Mm.
I've always helped organizations and people recognize who they are so others can. So it's really about helping them see their own invisible clues. Actually, it's sort of no wonder that I ended up in branding.
Sorry, I just turned on the LinkedIn so I could watch if there were any comments that came in.
Oh, great idea. Great idea. Yeah, so that's, I think that's why we lived in different countries and speaking Dutch, Spanish, English, that's about it. Australian.
That's why nobody can tell what your accent is.
Maybe. So, you just have to sort of, it was the one way I could give myself some sense of meaning and identity is just by paying super attention. And I keep telling my clients, I can see things that no one else can.
Mm-hmm. And you really do, you have a way of delivering that to people also that's very kind and it's clear and direct without being like in your face.
Yes, clear. Empathy. We have to have empathy, right? When we deliver our messaging. Yeah. So I think that's how it all sort of came together.
Mm-hmm. And empathy is important if you're trying to figure all of that out as a company and a brand so that you can connect with other people.
Absolutely.
You want to have empathy to connect with them.
Absolutely. Well, I keep saying, we just have to treat our customers and our clients like people, real human beings, because so often we don't. We have this particular kind of language or tone or the way of speaking, and we forget that we're all humans and we just want to connect on a real emotional level. Basically,
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
And that is different than what business schools taught for so long.
Yes, emotions were like, oh dear, let's not go there.
Right. I don't remember if I told you this before, but early in my career, my very first job out of undergrad, and I said good morning to somebody by the coffee machine, and he literally, the words were, "Cut the happiness crap." Like don't bring in the good feelings, and cut the happiness crap. Yeah. So don't even be happy to say good morning.
Oh no, that's a good title for a book, Kelly.
Ah, very good. And we've
put all your stories in there.
That's good. Yeah. How have you noticed branding evolve over the last several years, or even since COVID, or even before that?
Well, since COVID, during COVID, I mean, and especially because we're all online, because of social media, everybody now knows about how to create a brand. They look at these kids who are millions and millions of followers on social media or TikTok, and they realize the power of their own personal brand because they're attracting, massive amounts of people, and they have impact. People are now paying them to do a lot of things that they would never have done if this whole social media thing hadn't come about. So, of course, big companies still, some of them are trying to do something different because there are different ways of approaching branding now. But I think it's, it's always evolving, like everything. Branding doesn't ever stay the same. You don't want it to stay the same.
Right. Well, as people are different,
sure,
the way you connect with them needs to be different, right?
Exactly. I once told a silly story. You feed puppies, puppy food, and when they get grown up, you give them different food. And I said this to a client once. I said, "Listen, you've just started with this business. You have a brand. You just take care of it. You nurture it, and then one day you're going to adjust it because now you're in a different league." They thought I was nuts.
That's a good one.
Comparing brands to puppies, but
that's funny.
That's my crazy sense of humor.
I like where that could go, though. Me with the dogs.
Yes, always evolving. There's 6 chihuahuas next door barking.
Yeah, I do hear that. Speaking of dogs, they want to be in the conversation. And what do you think are keys in addition to empathy, keys for connecting with, when we talked in our pregame, we talked about connecting with customers. And then I thought of it separately as employees, but then we talked about it's really the same thing. And so what are your thoughts on some of those keys?
Well, I think sharing with your audience, sharing with other people, not your target group, sharing with other people. It's really helpful if we think about why we do what we do, because we all want stories. Where our brains are built for, are wired for storytelling, and when we hear a reason why somebody is doing what they're doing, it really hits home in a very special way. It has a resonance. And I think, our subconscious picks up on emotions so much. Many of our decisions, most of our decisions are made on emotional basis. We don't really want to admit that. We say, oh no, we work this out on our own logically. But I think trying to share with people why you do what you do is really very heartfelt. Again, some people might not get that. So I think, I never, if I meet someone, I never say I'm a branding professional or consultant. I say, I help people communicate that they are who they say they are.
Ah.
So then they look aghast. So I say, okay. They say, what do you really do? I said, I help people recognize who they are so others can. So it's really all about, the branding part is key, of course, but it's really, your brand is just a feeling. People have who you are, what you do, why it matters, and why they should care. It's all about creating a feeling and an energy. So that's, it's creating a corporate energy around what you do, I think it's not that difficult,
But it has to be truthful. So it has to be the truth of who you are. And if it's a small company, that's easy to gather, and then make sure it's congruent with your processes and your service and your quality standards and all of that. But if it's a big company, like sometimes there's the internal brand and the internal communications, and then they put out some fancy brand of how they treat the customers, but it's different internal than external, and that disconnect shows.
Yes, there has to be someone steering the ship. There has to be someone who, on the corporate side, who actually understands how to create that thread that connects all the messaging and all, for internal and external as well.
Right.
Chief brand energy officer. That's a good.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The energy. Awesome.
Yeah.
That comes up in the company culture work that I do, is seeing if there is congruency or not. And I've used Southwest Airlines as an example over the years. They haven't been a client, but I'm obviously a customer in travel. And, you can be on the flight and the flight attendants are singing into the overhead system, and they're fun and all of that. Then if you have an issue and you call customer service and they're mean and jerks, then there's that disconnect. Exactly. And the brand isn't congruent, and that's going to cause that customers to not connect. And then future employees and current employees the same. Exactly.
Well, that airline has, when I last was in touch with them, they had 4 very important values that it was like nice, approachable, very friendly, 4 simple values. And anytime that anybody approached or wanted to pitch to them, the team got together and said, well, how many of these 4 values can we tick off if we embark on this project or pitch? And that was how they made decisions. It wasn't like days of working out, was this appropriate? It was, do they actually touch on the things that we care about?
Yeah, and that's what we should do with our company values. That's how they should be used.
It makes it seem like decision making can be so much simpler, right?
Right.
Pick 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we're doing it.
Right.
Too long.
And maybe if they can't do the work, don't invite them to come in for the pitch.
Exactly.
Don't have them in the room. And then once they can do it, then the determining factor is the values.
I like
the alignment there. Yeah, that's so good. What kind of mistakes have you seen lately, or has anything gotten your attention? You don't have to mention specific companies or names of people, but anything specific with branding that you're noticing?
Well, sometimes that's a good question, Kelly. Sometimes I can't believe what I'm seeing. If I'm online and whether it's a large company and even small businesses, you can tell when you when you land on the site, no one's at home, no one's home, the lights are out, right?
Uh,
The information on their events or something is out of date. It's 2 years
mm,
ago, and you can tell that nobody's paying attention. Sometimes I get, sometimes, the CEO of a company, maybe it's a smaller company, there's no photograph, there's no indication. Sometimes they don't even have their names,
mhm,
So there's this keeping people at arm's length, which I find really frustrating because the about page is the first page that people go to when they're looking for,
mhm.
if they know a little bit about a company or if they're keen to know more, they go to the about page. So the about page should be so welcoming and so warm and so vivid and give a sense of what you're about and what you do and why they should care, right? And so often it's just a blank page with some words about what they think they're doing. And of course, you just click off and you don't go back. So that's the point when you can really get someone's attention, when you just talk to them as though they've just walked into your office and you say, how lovely to, hello.
Yeah, that's good.
So the contact page also, Kelly, I think the contact page is also a great moment to really, because, there are always those forms that you fill in, blah, blah, we'll
Mhm,
get back to you one day. But I think if there's some messaging there that's a little, it's not your typical messaging, but just to let people know that, you are who you say you are, you will deliver, you will do what you say you're going to do. And
mhm.
people are so surprised when that happens. I've seen a lot of really great results when people make a big effort to create a slightly quirky, highly individualistic kind of message.
Ah, interesting. I'm gonna have to take a look at that page on my website. Hmm.
Let's do that, Kelly. Let's do that one.
Yes, yes, I need to look at that one. I know mine always needs to be cold, shortened, but sometimes when I do look at other websites, then it is frustrating when I can't find any people. That
Yes.
there's no leadership team or service leaders or anything. There's no people, much less photos. And then, or when the website is the canned, that it could just change, you like do a cut and paste of that company's name and put any other company and it's the same thing.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it feels like.
Yeah. That doesn't create a connection, does it?
No, and then people click off and then they don't ever go back. It's very
Mhm.
hard to bring that sense of trust. And yes, we are here. We understand who you are. We know we can help you. To get that
Mhm.
feeling, it takes an awful lot of effort to get them back. So,
Yeah.
and it's a waste of energy and time to have a site or to have communication that is going nowhere, has no
Mhm.
impact.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Oh,
a
it is so good.
challenging. It can be challenging, but that's the fun part. That's the fun part. I often talk about how to be a master of serious play in your business, and we've talked about this. And people
Yeah.
never know what I'm talking about. They think it's a waste of time, and what does it mean? And all I mean is that it's how to kind of have a bit, bring more of yourself to the table. Still be businesslike. You're not being
Mhm.
playful like you're being serious, but in a light-hearted way. And you
Mhm.
can tell the difference when someone is being serious in a lighthearted way, than if it's all, serious and they're not saying anything that you can understand. Anyway, that's my take on serious play.
Well, sometimes people are so serious and they say things that they know people can't understand, and that's kind of a defensive move.
Yep.
Maybe it's kind of defensive, and they don't know what they're doing either. And everybody's figuring it out. We're at different stages and all of that, but have fun along the way and maybe lighten up a little
Exactly.
and be bold in putting yourself out there. That's what I hear
Yes,
you talk about.
you have to. You can't be risk averse. That doesn't help.
Mhm.
You have to be
Mhm.
willing to be a little fearless or dare yourself. I love to dare myself or dare people to try and step out of their comfort zone. And it
Mhm.
does. It always has incredible results, really does.
Mhm.
If you
You
can,
know, you did 5 things you may not know about me and dared me to put that on the website.
yes.
And I put that on the website, and one of them talks about, I'm pretty sure it's on there, that I can do weddings, that I got certified to do weddings. And a professional colleague texted me on a Sunday a few weeks ago and asked if I could take a call that day on a Sunday. And I thought, that's kind of odd. So I hope she's okay. So I said yes, I would, make time out of the day. And the middle of the day, like 2:30, she called, and she said, my fiance, who I also know through with the work, or she said his name, and that they were looking at the website and they saw that I do weddings, and they just got engaged the day before, and so they invited me to do their say their wedding for them next year.
Fabulous.
Isn't that funny? From the 5 things on the website.
I know. 5 things you couldn't possibly know about Kelly Byrnes. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, like I can be there for them in this special way that, like I would have never put that on the website in a million years. And you just encouraged me to do it, or just to think of these 5 things.
I
And
know.
I just thought that's such a funny, goofy thing. I'm going to put it out there.
I love it.
And yeah, I'm so happy for them and excited to help them help them with their day. And
Have you done many? Have you done many weddings?
no,
Oh, that's
no.
great.
Yeah, that's going to be my first where I've been the officiant at a wedding.
Yes,
So
that's wonderful.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
exciting.
I know. So all from you, from your influence and encouragement. What do you
Oh,
think? Or go ahead. Were you going to say something?
no, I was just thinking, it's amazing, to do that, to be willing to do that and then have such wonderful outcomes,
Yeah,
What could be better than that?
right,
Seriously.
right. And genuine connection with people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Word will travel, word of
Yeah.
mouth. They'll rave about you and suddenly wearing 2 hats.
Yes. Weddings and funerals and baptisms. What do you think? What can companies do, and leaders? What can people do to better connect the psychology, creativity, innovation? How can people get in that habit, mindset? Bring
Well,
serious play in. What can we do?
I think having more people at the boardroom table,
Mm,
with coming from different with different mindsets. I mean, so often when I was working with clients in Australia, big corporate clients, I'd have a meeting with the chief marketing officer, and that maybe his assistant, but there was no there was no senior marketing person, or the chief creative officer or the designer wasn't there, because what happens is everybody has a different wears a different hat, of course. And, if you're in the innovation or in the creative zone, you have so much to bring to the table at a meeting with a bunch of strategic thinkers, or, the chief operations officers, to have those mindsets, to put elbows on the same table, basically,
hmm
share what's happening. Because often when an idea comes through and it gets sent down to the, creative director and the copywriter, they're sitting there thinking, what in the hell is going on here? This is, what kind of idea is this? Who came up with this, right? They need more information. They need more conversation, dialogue, so they can make sense of where this came from. And if they've been in a major, important critical meeting from the start, people can actually learn a lot and share quite a lot of valuable information. So it doesn't always work, but I think it's a
hmm
good thing to start thinking about, having various people with different hats at the same table,
I
putting,
love that.
putting elbows on the same table.
Yeah. Well, and they receive the information. People receive it in a different way, and then it goes
Yes.
through their own filters in a way that's relevant to their work and their what they need to do with it next.
Yep. No, that's
Mhm.
true. It's a different, it's a different, again, bringing in that energy word, it's a different energy. People all
Mhm.
approach things with a different mindset and different lens. And
Right.
that's what's so helpful when you get different people there saying, hey, what about this? So it's worth trying, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything that people can do to bring more creativity, innovation, spontaneity? I'm thinking, is there something people can do on a daily basis to build that muscle so that, or even the boldness on a daily basis? Because they're not going to go from being generic and kind of closed off and so introverted to
Right. No,
being bold and sharing. So is there something on a daily basis, I wonder?
well, some people have a gratitude practice every morning
Mm-hmm.
or a meditation practice, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you could have whether it's a small group at a company who decide to take the time to have a bold practice.
Ah.
Or, maybe they think about what it is that if we're talking about a small group of
Mm-hmm.
people, maybe they decide what kind of aspect of the business or that they want to uh, enhance in a different kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have a little something practice, let's get bolder. Let's think
Yeah.
outside the box. Let's play. Oh, serious play practice
Yeah.
where they dare to say, where each person has to dare to say something they would never have dared before. I mean, who knows? It
Mm-hmm.
depends on the type
Yeah.
of people. But I say good morning world every morning. That's one of my that's part of my
I love that.
it's part of my gratitude practice, because it's an incredible world. But it's something, again, something that's a little offbeat can
Mm-hmm.
sometimes be a bit of fun too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that just made me think of so many ideas that I didn't realize tied into this. And when I lived in Chicago, I was in a small group that met monthly, and we were risk risk takers. And so every month we had different businesses and different careers. We would get together and we all identified what's the risk we're going to take in the next month. What's the chance? And
I love
and
that.
yeah, it was really good. And then a colleague that I worked with years ago, she would bring in mandatory fun, is what she called it. And it wasn't really mandatory, but she brought in creative ideas, and then people could participate.
Love
And
it.
one walked to a park across the street and did a scavenger hunt there. And another one was, she had big, huge coloring pages from coloring books or something. And then we all sat at the same table and colored on the same art together. That was another one. So just creative ideas. I'm seeing a comment that came in from Jason. Diversity and quantity of ideas leads to quality ideas. Right. The diversity. That's what we want.
Nice.
The elbows on the table.
Exactly. I love
Live
that.
at the intersection of disciplines. Right on. Love it.
That's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah. So good.
Thanks, Jason.
Yes. And yeah, so good.
Yes, I mean, I came up with this word the other day, the exceptionals. I don't know quite what I'm saying here, but imagine if you want to be more exceptional in how you look at life or how you treat everyday stresses or something. And you come up with the most exceptional, most exuberant ways of dealing with X, Y, or Z. I mean, that's all kind of fun, but again, it depends on the personality of the group or the company,
Sure.
or the business. I could get into that. I like that idea.
I like that a lot. I think that sounds really good. Like the going out of your way to help people, or out of your way to come up with and years ago, and one of my first jobs, we would do brainstorm sessions and then come up with what's the craziest wackadoodle idea that would never work in a million years. And that's how we would do some of the brainstorming. And then some of them it ended up we would do. They weren't so crazy after all. So creating the space for you to think about that and put them out there is a good idea.
Well, I think giving ourselves time, even dedicating 30 minutes, whether it's a day or a week, to just being, totally quiet and not being strategic or not being
Yeah.
stressed, and just dream or think differently about how you can
Mhm.
go about doing things. I think it's amazing things come up in those kinds of 30 minutes that are scheduled.
Yeah.
Of course, most of us just cross it out of our agenda because we get too busy. But I know
Mhm.
a few people who've said some of their best ideas have come out of dedicating 30 minutes. Okay, Friday at noon, I'm going to do
Mhm.
this every week. And I don't know. We're so obsessed with being so busy and keeping our brands on track. I think it's a good idea to pause, right? Pause and
Right.
reflect.
Right. And we're so busy keeping our brand on track and getting out the generic um,
Mhm.
social media posts, and maybe
Right.
take that down a notch for one day and spend that time just being and see what your brain comes up with.
Well, I think, so many brands, when I say that the lights are out or you can tell no one's at home, I call that a dead brand walking.
Mm,
But, the point of this is how to create I mean, I'm talking about, when's the last time you checked your brand pulse? Okay. Again, this is about energy. You want people to pick up when they see your brand in whatever platform. You want them to think or feel that your brand has a pumping, vibrant,
right.
that,
Right.
wow, something is happening here, and you cannot ignore it. So that's why I always love talking about, when's the last time you checked your brand pulse? Because it's, we all have a pulse. We can tell when things are, if you walk by someone in the street, you can tell how they're doing just by their
Mhm.
slumped shoulders, right?
Right.
How they're not in a good space. And we can't, our brands are so powerful. We have to really pay attention and keep them pumping, keep them.
That is brilliant. Dead brand walking. That's brilliant. And so many people, I think, small, mid-sized companies, especially maybe, they think they build a website and then they're done. And that's all you have to do for your
Right,
brand and
right.
design a logo and, you know, um,
Exactly. I know.
yeah, that's not it.
No, you want to avoid that trap. Not a good trap to fall
Yeah.
into, right?
And Blackline Crazy avoids that trap, that's for sure. That every product is different. The designs are different. And I just loved it. When you first showed me that, I just like had flutters. I just couldn't believe it.
Oh.
But tell me about the dinner party with the tape.
Well, this was, maybe 10 years ago. My husband at the time, we were living in Williamsburg in New York, and we used to have dinners, and he brought home some tape, black tape. You could buy black tape in design art stores, this thin,
Mhm.
this, fabulous, fabulous tapes. And I started buying butcher paper, white paper, and putting it on our dining room table because I've never liked tablecloths. They're just don't do it for me. So
Yeah.
I would put this on a table, and I would get these black, cut these strips of black tape and design something crazy, which I had never done before in my life. I mean, I've always been creative, but I've never thought of myself as, an artist. So I was doing that, and then we'd make this amazing dinner, and then people kept talking about the black lines on the table. Anyway, one night everybody left, and we were looking at this table setting with, and I just looked at it and I said, I can't believe it, Blackline Crazy.
Ah.
And I never thought it was going to stick, and it was only years later that when I started to paint here in Mexico for the first time in my life, paint floor to ceiling, that I was only using black acrylic house paint, and I stuck with it. It's sort of my signature now.
Yeah. And
So
so
that's,
many things that you do with it. It's amazing.
I know well, it's sort of funny. I never had a plan. I never had a strategy or a business plan for those who are listening who don't know, blacklinecrazy.com, it's a fashion and lifestyle brand. And I never had a plan. I never had an idea what I was going to do next. I just started this painting. And then one day I wanted to make bags. messenger bags. I wanted to print the paintings on messenger bags. And because when I had been living in New York for years, do you have this where you live, Kelly? Courier dudes in those, in that gear with the big messenger bag over their
Yeah,
back. You don't see so many of them now, but
not as much. Yep.
I used to love those characters, and I was always, buying vinyl messenger bags, which had crazy designs. So one day I decided I wanted to print a painting and put it on vegan leather, textured and aqua seal. But I started doing that, and then something else came up, and so it just took it, as I say, Blackline Crazy took me by the hand and led me down a path I could
Ah,
never have imagined. That's my story, Kelly.
I love it though. And it still continues. And you're going to New York this month, right? Is it
Tomorrow.
tomorrow? Okay.
I'm going tomorrow. I can't believe it. I'm going to a high-end fashion trade show in New York City.
Wow.
And that's where buyers come and make orders, and museum buyers from museum design shops have bought
Hmm.
my bags for their stores, which I'm very excited about, in Chicago and Museum of Contemporary Art. Some very exciting design, museums. So it's how I get the word out there, how I get the product out there.
It's amazing. And to be living what you talk about in the branding for other people. And then you're living it with your brand too. Um,
Well, do you know what's interesting is that Blackline Crazy and my branding practice have the same business ethos, which I
mhm,
only worked out not so long ago, because it's both of them. If you choose a Blackline Crazy, or if you choose to work in this way of branding that I like to use, you're really choosing to live out loud. You're choosing to have an impact in the world, and to actually show who you really are. If you wear one of these
mhm,
crazy bags,
mhm,
you're making a statement, right? And it's really about an experience. You're creating a feeling and an experience and a desire to actually communicate something about who you are,
mhm.
right? And this for the brand, how you want to be seen and perceived. And the same if you walk down the street and, here a few people buy them and people scream, "Hey, you're wearing a van bag
Ah,
or a Blackline Crazy bag." Yeah, so it's really, I think that's interesting that they're very similar in intention.
mhm,
It's not because I just wanted to splash black over everything. It's just that it felt like it had meaning, right? It had purpose, just
right.
like, yeah. So that's
Because that's who you are. That's your truth. That's who you are, and that's what you bring out in people. Yep.
yes. Oh, that's who I am, of course.
Mhm.
Yes, it's interesting way of telling your story,
Right.
or visual. I call it visual storytelling, because words and pictures are so much more powerful than just words. For example,
Mhm.
the brain somehow takes it in a different kind of way.
Yeah, and there's research that backs that up. Yeah, for sure.
So much, so much.
I feel your boldness when I carry my bag. That it's in with my. I'm going on a trip tomorrow too, or Thursday, and it's in with my where I'm packing. So I don't have it right here handy. So
Fabulous,
yeah,
fabulous. I'm
yeah,
so excited, Kelly.
yeah. It's so
Yay.
good. Yeah. What
Yeah.
about one last question for you? And then if anybody listening has a question, if you're here, if you're with us live, if you have a question, you could post it in the comments and I can see it on my phone. That's why I keep looking over here. So if you do have anything you would like to ask Van, feel free to post a comment. And then my last one is thinking about leadership, because a lot of the folks that will be
Mhm.
that are my contacts and friends are in leadership roles. And so, does anything stand out to you tying in leadership and branding and leading others, and any lessons from leading your own agency and your own fashion line? Anything with leadership?
Well, I think as a leader, I think it helps if you're a leader and you have a sort of curiosity, obviously, about what makes
Mhm.
people tick, because you're with groups of people and leading the way, and I think paying attention and being curious about and listening, asking the right
Mhm.
questions and listening to hearing what's really going on, asking those sort of bold, unusual, unexpected questions that I'm not saying they disarm people, but they realize that someone's asking them something because they really want to know what's going on, right? I think that's really helpful. And I remember when I had my agency in Sydney, we would be hiring someone for a role as a designer or a copywriter or whoever it was. And my office was in such a space that, the people who were coming in for the interview, because I knew people were coming in for interviews, they didn't know who I was, or I could see them come in. And what I used to love, Kelly, I would watch them come into the office, because we had a wonderful space. And I would look at the way they walked in and the way they would either ignore the person at the front desk or be friendly,
Ah.
or and how they sat and waited for someone to talk to them, because it wasn't always me at first. So I used to really pay attention to that. And
Ah.
people often don't think that they're being noticed, right?
Mhm.
Um, I remember one of the best hires I ever made is a designer. He's still a good friend in Australia, because he walked in, fabulous designer, and he was just full of life. He had a bold, he walked in, he had a spring in his step, he had a twinkle in his eye.
Ah.
Not everybody has to have that. I mean, people can be quiet and shy
Right.
and timid and nervous. So you take that into account. But I just think noticing how people, again, it's their energy. How is their body? How do they work with their body? Because if you
Mhm.
hiring people, you're going to see that person inside that office
Right.
long as you need to. So I just think those sort of quirky little ways of paying attention are interesting.
I love that. And not be so wrapped up in your own head and what's on your schedule for the day, but to pay attention to them. I do see a couple comments from people. So Brian is asking, can you think of any companies or people that have a unique way of making their brands stand out? And what is it that they do to stand out? Can you think of any examples?
Well, one of my first examples is Debbie Millman. She's a New Yorker. DebbieMillman.com, Debbie Millman, Millman.com. She has been, running a major branding agency in New York. She's an author. She's an illustrator. Her podcast, Design Matters, is one of the most brilliant podcasts you can ever possibly listen to. And she does so many things. She's now a curator, but her site is so unusual. She shows all the things that she's good at. She's not shy.
Hmm.
She has her illustrations in the background. So that's kind of an interesting
Yeah,
one to look at.
I love
Um,
it.
there's an agency in Australia. It's called Inventium.com. And they're very quirky the way they help organizations have an impact. And on the homepage, they say, really, we're just a nerdy bunch of scientists, but we really care about making the world a better place. But they say it in such, I hope that's it, Inventium. So Inventium.com, it could be AU at the end. Amazing group of people. Um, but again, these are people who are showing up, right?
Hmm.
Up like they mean it. They're not hiding behind a, you know, hiding behind a stock stock
Yeah,
photo.
yeah. Or the facade of being fancy scientists.
Yes.
You
No.
embrace the nerdiness and embrace who they are. And I like that.
Yeah.
And that they're changing the world.
It's
Excellent.
it's a nice way of putting it, isn't it? Instead of
Hmm.
saying, it's just, yeah. I think we all need to be a bit more quirky in the way we communicate. Maybe that's maybe that's a good answer to that question.
I love that. Well,
That's a good
and
question.
are you going to connect with the nerdy scientist that calls themselves that, they're in on that, or the one that's too erudite and hoity-toity. Which one do you think is more open and more approachable? Right.
Well,
So,
whatever you have on your, we're talking about science, I guess, whatever you're having as a communication, whatever that's going to be, as you said earlier, Kelly, it's a filter. If people respond and it resonates with them, they're going to want to be in touch, right?
mhm,
If it's not, they leave. They leave.
right, right.
That's how you can attract the kind of people you want, by using the kind of language that most feels real to you and who you are.
Mhm. That's so good.
Was there another question there? How exciting.
There's one more from Jason. It's a comment more. It's the emotions evoked through vivid art and imagery that pulls people. And he says, thank you very much for sharing.
Oh, thanks, Jason.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So
Yes,
good.
the emotional thing is so key,
Mhm.
and I think if we just try to be a little bit more real, human, and emotional. Maybe
Mhm.
emotional doesn't mean hysterical or weak, right? We know
Right.
that, right? It's just
Right.
more honest, just
Yeah.
being a little bit more honest and daring to be a little vulnerable, right? That's a good way.
Right. Right. I love it. Well, what's your favorite thing that's going on with you right now? What are you looking forward to? New York.
Well, I have to finish packing today. That's driving
Yes.
me crazy. No, I love wearing the two hats. I love
Mhm.
wearing the branding hat, because I love the one-on-one coaching and consulting with people. Because when you're working designing bags, and I go to Leon, which is the manufacturing capital here in Mexico, and Mexico City, when you're working with people who are making and designing and cutting material and texturing and working out which zipper to use, it's a different kind of, you're in a different
Yeah.
space. It's a different kind of conversation. It's very exciting, but I was missing, because I got involved in Blackline Crazy, I was missing the one-on-one brand psychology talk.
Ah,
So I really, I'm really very busy with that as well. So
yes.
two hats, just wearing two hats. We all wear several hats, right?
Right, right. Well, we are lucky that you do wear both of those hats and
Thank you.
continue to share all of that with us. I know I say this all the time, but just you're so brilliant, and the things that you come up with and then that you bring out of people, just amazing. And so I've seen you do your workshop a couple times, and just so valuable and
Thank you, Kelly.
life changing for the people that come up with it, that you see something in people and help them recognize it, see things that they don't even see, and recognize how important that is, and how they can connect with others. So that's how you build a brand and build a company, but
Great.
especially when it's genuine, it's so meaningful to people.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Thank
Oh,
you for sharing and just for being you. And I hope you have a great trip to New York. And I'll look forward to hearing about it.
yes, I'll keep you posted. No, it's going to be a great time, I think. A great time. And it's such a treat hearing you with your wonderful questions. And I've been watching some of your other terrific shows, Kelly. So I salute you for all the amazing,
And our friend Allie chimed in as well. Allie Davies chimed in.
oh,
She's
Holly.
just joining in. Great to see you sharing your wisdom. She's going to watch back and see what she missed. And she said, "Real, all caps. The world needs so much more of that right now."
Yes.
And she agreed with Jason. With emotions drive everything, and they're often overlooked or ignored. So yeah, that self awareness of them and using them to
Fabulous.
connect and all of that. Right on.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Allie. What a treat.
Yeah,
What a
thank you,
treat.
Allie and Jason and Brian, for chiming
Yes.
in. And
Yes.
thank you for everybody who joined us live today, and anybody that watches after the live as well. We appreciate you whenever you can join us and listen in on the conversation. And Van, thank you for joining and being part of this as well. And we'll look forward to a follow up maybe and see how you do in New York and whatever comes next for you.
Whatever comes next. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's such a treat. I'm so thrilled to be here with you. So
Yeah.
and lovely to be live with all of you guys out there. So
Yay.
you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, and we'll be in touch. And here's to being more, more vulnerable, real, human.
And not have dead brands walking.
Yes.
Not live, vibrant brands walking.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Van.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.